You are the only King forever. Almighty God, we lift you higher. You are the only King forever. Forevermore, you are victorious. He is victorious, and because He is victorious, we is victorious. Amen.
Hallelujah!
It's good to be victorious. It's not good to be losing all the time. I'm so glad that we serve a God that makes us winners in every single thing we do. We might fall down, but we always have the strength with Him to get back up. Amen.
Come on!
We're victorious. He is victorious.
Yes, we
That
are.
means we is victorious. No, that's not correct grammar.
Just Jesus
God that keeps on chasing me, even when I'm running. I tell our kids in our youth group, you can run as far as you want, but God will always be right here. So, we think we always have the upper hand, that we can run from God. We're getting as far away from God as possible. But God is bound by His Word that He's constantly right here. So when you finally do turn to Him, you don't have to search for Him. He's right here. I'm so thankful for that reckless love of God who chases me. Amen? He's chasing somebody in this room today. All you have to do is turn around. Right there. Amen? Okay, so I'm not good at transitions, so here's what I'm going to do. I shouldn't say that. I'm getting better at transitions. If you guys want to have a seat, we'll go on this get started. If I could have a couple ushers move the podium now. Begin with props today. Okay, so we're going to do offering a little bit later on today. We're going to do it towards the end. If you have some time. So, first of all, Children's Church, you're dismissed. See that? First time doing it, I remember. All right. Give you guys a little backstory really quick before I get started. This is my first Sunday morning ever ministering to anyone. It's my second time ever ministering to adults. So I'm going to reverse the rules a little bit in youth group. I always tell them, be quiet while I'm talking. But you guys are welcome to amen or something if I actually say something's really good. Amen. But complete silence with adults makes me nervous, but with youth it doesn't. I don't know, it's weird. So we're going to get right into this today.
Amen.
Amen? Yeah, thank you.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so is anybody in here just ready to make a change? Or is everybody just kind of good with the way everything is? And
Come on.
And we're good. We don't need to change anything about ourselves, and we've reached that point where we are the most super spiritual we could ever be.
No.
Okay, so we got some work to do.
Always.
I'm definitely included. I want to start with a little story. Back when I was growing up, back in Illinois, we had a pool there called the Memorial Pool, and it's this humongous Olympic-sized pool. And that's where I learned how to swim. We did lessons there, things like that. Between there and my grandma's house, that's where I learned how to swim. So one day we're going there, and I have friends with me, and they had a low dive and a high dive. And I was king of the low dive. I mean, no problem. I can jump off the low dive, not an issue whatsoever. But the day came where my friends said, "Dude, you gotta jump off the high dive. I mean, we're all doing it, and you're the only one of us that's not jumping off the high dive." So I climb up and thinking, my friends are with me, and today's my day. So I climb up to the top. And I get to the edge and I look down, and it might as well have been a 75-foot drop. I mean, you ever see it in movies like the tunnel vision that goes, and you're like, what have I got myself into? And so I kind of back up a little bit and go to turn around, and there's a line of like 15 kids waiting for me to jump. And so I stood up there for literally 10 minutes. In a 10-minute period of time, I was the most hated kid in that whole pool because I'm stopping up at the high dive line. It was my first time doing it. I was like, this is scary. And I mean, I don't want to jump 75 feet to concrete water below me. I have my friends down there cheering me on. Come on, go! I have them back there. Go! Jump! I mean, they're not, and they pretty much decided we're not getting down and letting you back. You have to jump because we're crowding this. We're not letting you get down. And at a certain point, I was like, just let me down. I'll try again later. No, we're not letting you down. You have to jump, and I hope you jump soon because we've been waiting for like 10 minutes. So eventually, I look down. My friends are down there in the water cheering me on, and I go for it. I jump, and it just feels like 10 minutes going all the way down. I finally get in the water, and I hear on the way down, I hear cheers from them because they finally get to jump off the high dive again. Cheers from my friends because I actually did it. And so, you know what happened that day though? After I jumped off the high dive, I got out of the water and went back to the high dive and I jumped off of it. Amen. And I jumped off of it probably 100 times that day. And probably a million times after that. So we're gonna be. This is all gonna wrap around to what we're talking about today. My youth group really likes when I put titles to my messages.
Yes.
It's like, what's the title? What's the title? It's like, we haven't finished the song yet. Come on. Titles are a big thing. You gotta make a title of your message. So I don't know if it's a youth pastor thing or what. But today the title of my message is "Take It by the Tail." We're going to be reading out of Exodus chapter 4 today. My little daughter's saying, no. Yes, we are. Exodus 4. Exodus chapter 4. We're going to be reading from verse 1 through 5 today. And I just want to read this really quick. So, little backstory to this. God has just told Moses, I am going to send you back to Egypt, and you are going to be the person that heads up freeing your people. Where you're going to be the guy. And Moses, of course, not very comfortable with that. He's got a lot of questions. Anybody ever, God ever called you to do anything? I had a lot of questions. Anybody? Just me? Oh, okay. Couple of you. All right. So here in Exodus chapter 1, verse 1, this is pretty much Moses' response. Moses answered and said, "But suppose they will not believe me or listen to my voice. Suppose they say, 'The Lord hasn't appeared to you.' So the Lord said to him, 'What's that in your hand?' And I brought props today. This is my Moses staff I found in the woods. God said, what's that in your hand? And Moses said, it's a rod. He said, cast it on the ground. So he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses ran from it. He ran from it. How many of you guys, if you saw a serpent on the ground right in front of you, you run from it? Hands. I want to see hands. I want to see hands. Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah. If it was over there, maybe it'd be okay. But if it's right here, it's close enough to strike me. Yeah, I'm not okay with that. So it became a serpent, and Moses fled from it. Verse 4. Then the Lord said to Moses, reach out your hand and take it by the tail. And he reached out his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand. That they may believe, verse 5, that they may believe that the Lord God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. They said, that's how they'll know. I mean, if you go to talk to them. Today, Can anybody think of like an inanimate object in your life that you can't do anything without? Anybody? Like, you just everybody put your phones up. Just put your phones up. Just don't kid yourselves. Put your phone up. I was actually, when I was preparing this message, I was like, there's somebody in the congregation that's going to raise up their Bible. Hallelujah. It's just my Bible. I don't need my phone, I need my Bible. So, no, I didn't see anybody. That's yeah, that's what you guys are doing. Okay, that's what you're doing. Putting that phone up, Bible app up. Say, in our youth group, we don't get to do this because as soon as they walk in the door, they put this in a bucket. And because when I was in a youth group, I didn't have a cell phone, but if I did and it had what this has, I would not be on my Bible app. I would be like making memes off of the youth pastor, or I'd be like on Facebook or Snapchat or doing something where, you know, if someone asks, I got that in my back pocket. I'm on my Bible app, on the Bible app. No, I know, I just didn't want to deal with that, so day one, put it in the bucket. I'm not dealing with it. You got paper Bibles, and you got notebooks and pens. That's all you get. So the worst they can do is draw just, you know, a weird picture or something like that. Throw a note to somebody, but still, I don't want people text. You know, if anything else, I don't want people texting like making fun of me while things are going on. So inanimate object that actually before I got an iPhone, my wife got an iPhone, and I watched her on the iPhone, and you know, was doing all this stuff, the games and the apps and all this stuff, and I thought literally, like, how stupid, like that thing, you're always on that thing, whatever. And so, and about a year later, I got an iPhone, and I realized it wasn't stupid. It was not. So, it's wrong. But that inanimate object. So today we're talking about an inanimate object that played an important part in Moses' whole journey. It was this right here, the stick, the staff of Moses. So before we get into this, I wanted to assure you guys, or kind of encourage you in something. We're going to be spending the majority of the time, the remainder of this time, talking about a stick.
Yes.
So after this, after we're done, I expect you guys to never, ever, ever doubt that God can use you. Because we're going to be talking about how God used a stick. And you're not a stick. You're better than a stick. So don't ever think God can't use you, no matter how old you are, no matter how young you are. We're talking about a stick here. God used a stick. God used a donkey. God's used whatever He gets used. Like I love the scripture says, if you're not going to praise God, I'll make a rock do it. Because I'm an object. Come on, great. So don't ever think God can't use you. So we're reading in this text the origin of Moses' staff. We read through Exodus and Leviticus about an inanimate object that God gave to a person who is insecure about his abilities. Everybody remember, Moses talking to God. I can't talk in front of people. I can't do that. So, God gave him the staff. Or actually, He enhanced his staff. He already had the staff when He went to go meet him, but He enhanced his staff. He kind of upgraded it for him. That was pretty cool for free. You don't get upgrades for free anymore. So, this thing that was capable of doing absolutely amazing things, but when I noticed that when I was studying for this, that the staff only did amazing things when it was in Moses' hand.
Right.
And we can read, I'll give you some scriptures here later I'll rapid fire some scriptures that you can look at later, but pretty much the gist of it is anything Moses did with the staff, it was in his hand. It wasn't, the staff didn't float up and do all sorts of things. So, a couple things. It turned the Nile River into blood. He took his staff and he touched the water with it, turned the Nile River into blood with the staff. And it was in his hand. It was just in his hand. If he would have just not done it the way God told him to, it wouldn't have happened that way. He hit the bloody Nile and frogs came out with the staff. And there's a part the Bible talks about he hit the ground and gnats flew up and ate all this stuff, ate all the food. So, just the staff. So, Moses even parted the Red Sea with this staff. When he had to make a way when there was no way, he used the staff. When I was younger, I used to have a staff too. I always liked if it was stormy outside. I would watch Charlton Heston, 10 Commandments on repeat. And so whenever there's clouds outside, I was out there with my staff because the clouds were moving. I was doing it. Come on, great. Okay, so this message is going to have some points to it, and I'll tell you where the points are. So if you're taking notes, you can write down what these points are. First point out of the story that we read. Don't let what they say or do affect what God called you to do. First thing out of Moses' mouth, first thing he said, what if they? What if they don't believe me? What if they? There's a lot of people love to offer their opinions, don't they? Right? For free. That's one of the free things in life. People offer their opinions. Even if you tell them you're going to do something really great, really fun, and I'm going to go do this, or it's a really great idea. People feel it necessary to tell you all the cons of the whole situation, right? I heard a quote, and it rings true to me every time I think of this kind of situation. But it said, in any game that you watch, it's always the audience making the most noise. The players never make the noise. Players are playing. But, let's get down to even kids' t-ball or kids' sports. Come on, you shouldn't run that way, you shouldn't run that way. Yeah, okay, put some pads on and go out there and run for 5 minutes and tell me how good you're doing, okay? The audience is like, oh, I can do it better. Give me those pads. Put those pads on me. You know what I'm saying? Don't listen to they, okay? That's one of the points here. Point number one is don't let what they say do or affect what God called you to do. What if God calls you to do something and people say no? Like you're following what God tells you to do.
Do it.
God tells you to do something a certain way, and you do it, and you get a door slammed in your face. What happens? What happens then? What do you do? Quit. For those of you that don't know the story, this whole story of Moses got the door slammed in his face 9 times after he was doing what God told him to do. He got Pharaoh said, absolutely not. No, I ain't going to do it. Don't you think, isn't it the common belief that if it's God's will, it'll happen? But when we follow God's will and then it doesn't happen the first time, like, wait a second, God called me to do it, and I got a door slammed in my face. 9 times. Moses could have quit. He didn't, because he knew that God called him to do it, and he knew what the end game was. But Exodus 4, 1 through 2, we're going to keep reading throughout this text the rest of this time. So we're going to read verse 1 and 2 again. Then Moses answered and said, but suppose they will not believe me or listen to my voice. Suppose they say, the Lord has not appeared to you. So the Lord said to him, what's that in your hand? He said, a rod. Point number 2. What you need, you already possess.
That's right. Amen.
What's that in your hand? I take that as, you come to God with stuff, and what if I can't do this? That's his response. What's that inside of you? What do you have inside of you? You already have. You already possess what you need. What's that in your hand? Now, now that we kind of know we possess everything we'll ever need, everything's within our reach, we have access to all of God's resources. Amen?
Amen.
Get quiet on me.
Amen.
We need to know that what this thing is capable of and how to use it. I've told our youth group this many times. There's some people like they have this big collection of guns, or they have this big collection they have this big collection of like bows and arrows and stuff like that. What if you came up to somebody and said, "Man, this is a nice collection. Can I see you shoot it?" And they can't hit anything with it. And they don't have, they're putting the wrong size bullets in the wrong gun and all this. It doesn't matter how impressive the stuff is that you have to know how to use it.
Amen.
That's the only time it's worth anything, is if you know how to use it. So we can carry something powerful with us. Do you guys know that every single one of you in here carries something around with you that's powerful? The Holy Spirit on the inside of you? You can't get more powerful than that. You need to know how to use it. Amen?
Amen.
Anything that you possess is only useful if you know how to use it. You gotta actually know how to use it, right? This power that's been given to us is only useful. It's only good when we put it to use. I told you I'd rapid fire you some scriptures, so if you want to write these down and read these later. Exodus 4, verse 17. Exodus 4, verse 20. Exodus 7, verse 15. Exodus 14, verse 16. And Exodus 17, verse 5. Those are all scriptures that talk about the staff of Moses and God telling him, put it in your hand. Take that rod that I gave you in your hand. Put it in your hand. And when he possessed it, it did amazing things. We're going to read Exodus verse 2 again. So the Lord said to him, "What's that in your hand?" He said, "A rod." He said, "Cast it." In verse 3, he said, "Cast it on the ground." So he cast it on the ground and became a serpent, and Moses ran from it. The things God was calling you to, he cast it on the ground and turned into one of these. I wanted to get a way better realistic looking snake, but my mom's like, keep that away from me. I just read her mouth. Anybody in here really deathly afraid of snakes? Hands, let me see hands. Yeah, like you don't even like this right now. You don't like that I have this up here. Anybody? Okay. My mom's like that. She can't see a picture of a snake in a magazine or see it on TV. She's like, turn it off, turn off. So he threw that thing down and it turned into one of these guys. And Moses ran from it. Point number 3. It may be scary and uncomfortable, but don't run from it.
Amen.
Whatever the it is in your life. God's calling you guys to things. God's calling me to things. And it never, ever, ever, not in my opinion and in my experience, God never has called me into anything that I was actually comfortable with. I'm standing up in front of you right now. I'm not comfortable. It's not something that comes second nature. But when God calls you to do something and you know that you're supposed to do it, you do it anyway, even if your voice is shaky. So it may be scary and uncomfortable, but don't run from it, whatever the it is in your life. If you run from what God has called you to do, you'll never see what He had for you. You'll never see the potential benefits that He had.
Amen.
The staff only worked when it was in Moses' hand, when he possessed it. Let's see. Okay, so Exodus 4, we're gonna continue here on verse 3 and 4. So he said, "Cast it on the ground," and came a serpent, and Moses fled from it. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Reach out your hand and take it by the tail." And he reached out his hand and caught it, and became a rod in his hand. Does anybody know anything about snakes? Hands? Okay. When I do this, I want to see your hands. Okay. Because I'm actually, it's not like one of those questions that you kind of ask and don't really care the answer to. I really want to know. So, whenever you, I know the answer. Whenever you handle a snake, some of you right now are saying you don't handle a snake. But whenever you are trying to get a snake, and say you don't have a shovel and you don't have a killing device, and you just want to get this snake out of the way, what did God tell Moses to do? Reach out your hand, take it by its tail. When you handle a snake, you do not take it by the tail. You do not take this thing by the tail. You see a snake at your house or whatever, oh, I remember that message, take it by the tail. No, we're talking metaphorically in some cases, okay? So, whenever you grab a snake, grab it right here, at the back of the head. Want to know why? Because you can control it. You can control the snake. You can't bite me, so you can't whip around and do anything. You can't do anything. I have control of this situation.
Amen. There you go.
So God says, take it by the tail. Moses knew better. Moses knew that isn't God. That is not the way you handle a snake. So he knew that God was telling him, trust me. Trust me. Do it the wrong way. Do it the way that doesn't make sense to you.
There you go.
Do it the way that does not logically make sense. I want to tell you about my God. My God doesn't logically make sense.
Come on.
When you're dealing with an issue in your body that you've been dealing with your whole life and it just goes away like that, it doesn't logically make sense to us.
No, it doesn't.
But he said, take it by the tail. And I'm sure Moses was like, world, no. It's going to bite me. So he took it by the tail, and when he did, it turned back into this. Point number 4, trust God. 2 words, trust God. I put an exclamation point if you'd like to. His methods don't always make logical sense to us. We try to grab situations by the head so we can be in control of the situation. Taking it by the tail, from now on, when I say take it by the tail, that translates to do it God's way. Do it God's way. When you take it by the tail and do it God's way, that puts God in control. And that's the best person to be in control over your situation.
Oh,
Amen.
Amen.
When you put God in control, we can feel okay. This is comfortable. If I had a real snake up here, I probably wouldn't feel threatened at all because it can't do anything to me. I'm in control. When I'm doing this, God calls me to do something. I do it exactly the way He wants, and it doesn't make sense. I'm worried because this thing could strike me or hurt me at any time. It could hit me here, hit my arm, or if I was staying close enough to somebody else, it could hurt somebody else. God calls us to do those things for our obedience.
yes, He does.
He wants to know how obedient we are.
Amen.
He gave us a brain. He gave us a brain. We know that that's not the right thing. That's not the right way to do things. God, that's not the right way to handle a snake. The snake didn't turn back into the staff. Now this is where it's going to get serious with you guys. The snake didn't turn back into a staff until Moses trusted God's word and did it God's way. And then the thing that he had previously ran from suddenly became a non-issue for him.
That's right. Come on. Think
I
about it.
was up on a high dive, and I jumped once, and it was scary once. And I did it 1,000,000 times after that. See, it's only scary once. He's trying to teach us something. When we think we know the right way to go and the right steps to take, That's why we just take ourselves out of it and consult God. What do I do? And, it's hard to say, those are point number 4, trust God. That's one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life.
Yes, it is.
It is for me. Trust God. Trust God with your finances. Trust God. Really?
Come on.
Wow. I like to be in control of the situation. Really? I trust God. I could get hurt. And this could hurt me. Everybody know where we're going with this? Everybody is ministering to anybody in the room?
Yes, sir.
Get quiet. I'm fishing for compliments now. So when Moses grabbed that snake and it became the rod in his hand again, it was just perfect, not an issue, and it was just normal as normal to him as just carrying that staff around. We have to step out and do things that are scary and uncomfortable to us. And when we do it, we'll realize that it wasn't as scary as we thought. We'll be able to be obedient to God's calling. It's not one of the points, but write down, it's only scary once. Take it by the tail. Take it by the tail. Do it God's way. Maybe that snake in your life, this is where, like I said, this is where we're going to get a little serious. What is that snake? What's that thing you've been running from? What's that thing that God called you to that you've been running from? Said, here's what I want you to do. And I want you to do it this way. But I don't want to. I'm running from it. Because it scares me.
Come on, it does.
And God said, take away the tail. Do it my way. It'll be fine. But I'm not sure. Because I know you're not supposed to handle a snake that way, God. I know this doesn't make sense to me. Everybody in this room, I want you to think about what that snake is in your life. Maybe that snake in your life is a snake. I don't know. That's supposed to be funny, but guess what? So, strike one. So, think about that. What's this snake in your life? What's this represent? This thing that's right here. God called you to face. He called you to grab that thing and deal with it. And for me, it's been a lot of things, and it might not just be one thing in your life. There's a lot of things. Today, I'm taking it by the tail.
Come on.
I'm not comfortable in front of adults. I've always been comfortable in front of youth. Adults was this thing in my mind that just scared me. Like I just wanted to make sure that I did a good job, so I kind of avoided it for years and years. Today I'm taking it by the tail. I'm doing it God's way, and I'm doing what He said to do. Amen. So what is that thing? What's that snake in your life? You got loneliness, depression, anxiety. What's that thing that God's calling you to deal with?
Come on.
What's that thing that terrifies you? That you know you're supposed to be doing, but you haven't gone over and dealt with it. You haven't grabbed a hold of it and possessed it. He's saying, there's a lot of metaphors in the Bible. That's the metaphor I pull out of this. God calls you to do something scary, and once you do it, it's not scary anymore.
Come on.
I might be, if I'm invited to preach another Sunday, I won't be as scared as I was today. So maybe that snake in your life is loneliness, anxiety, depression, fear, hate, anger, unforgiveness. You guys know the answer to this, what the snake is in your life. Maybe it's your calling, maybe it's that book that you haven't written. Maybe it's that song that you never wrote. Maybe it's that business you never started up because you're scared, because I could get hurt. Maybe the snake in your life is volunteering for nursery duty. you run from it. Diaper times, and you run from it. Point number 5. As long as you stand there looking at it, it'll always be that snake you've been running from. That snake stays a snake until you pick it up. That snake will remain that thing that you're terrified of. The thing that gives you anxiety, that thing that you just can't even think of. Like, and I'm not talking a little bit scared. Oh, I'm scared to whatever. I'm talking about something that makes you completely terrified. That actually gives you anxiety, makes your heart beat out of your chest. That literally, I don't want to deal with this. Hi, Daddy. But as long as you stand there looking at it, it'll remain that thing that you're terrified of. It'll be that snake. Yeah. I got a fan over there. Remember though in the story that whenever Moses went down and actually grabbed it by the tail, it only did that when he possessed it. It only did that when he decided, I'm going to trust God. I'm not going to be up here and tell you guys that all you got to do is trust God. I already said this. Trusting God's hard because it doesn't make sense in our brain. Some of the things he calls us to do. Whatever that snake is in your life, you got to grab it by the tail. What did I say? Grab it by the tail, or take it by the tail meant? Do it God's way.
Trusting God.
Do it God's way. Your scary situations can turn into something valuable when you deal with them. Fear will no longer be a problem. I jumped off that high dive, like I said, numerous times after that. It just wasn't a problem. It was a non-issue. I grabbed a hold of that thing, jumped, whatever happened, happened. But then I realized in the water that wasn't so bad. I came up, went at it again 100 more times. But back to the staff. I'll talk about the staff again for a little bit. So, without the power of God on the staff, because Moses had been carrying this thing around for a long time before his encounter with the burning bush, that staff was literally what it was when I found it. It was this piece of wood that was in the woods. I saw it, and it looked just like this. I haven't carved anything on this. That was just how I found it. So I think it got maybe cut a little bit, and just, I don't know. But it was a perfect staff. I was like, wow, cool. So, but this thing that Moses has been carrying around with him for a long time was just a piece of wood. I mean, I don't know how they did it back then, but he might have carved one. He might have taken a branch and carved all the stuff off of it. But without the power of God, this thing was just a piece of dead wood laying around. So the way I see it, you guys have a choice to make. A choice to make. You can be this dead wood in the kingdom of God, or you can hook up with God and make him turn that thing that you've been carrying around with you for so long. You can turn that thing into something useful. Come on. We serve a God that gives you beauty for ashes.
Hello.
He gives you treasure for trash.
Come on.
I give him trash. He gives me treasure. You get dead wood. He gives you something you can use.
Come on.
You give him anxiety. He gives you something way better to replace that with. He gives you give him depression. He gives you confidence. It's not fair. It's not logical, but he does it anyway.
That's right.
Come on, we serve a God that gives us all those things. We don't have have to give them something precious to us. Give them something. Work your way up to that, where you can give them everything. But until then, give them something. I'll give you 5 minutes of my day. I'll give you 15 minutes of my day. I'll give you $5 this week, God. That's the best I can do. Start somewhere.
Amen.
Trust God. Trust God with something small. He said, when I can entrust you with something small, I'll give you something bigger.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that thing you've been carrying around with you, assume that he carried around with him all the time. He had no idea the whole time that he was carrying around with him something that was going to absolutely change the course of his people with this piece of dead wood. Don't ever say God can't use you. We're talking about a stick.
Come
We're
on,
talking about a
hallelujah.
stick. But with the power of God, when you hook up with God,
Become.
man, there's amazing things you can do.
Amen.
I feel like I read through the text with, I read through a little bit later on, and I noticed Aaron, I think, got jealous of Moses, because then Aaron had a staff that could do stuff. And it's kind of crazy. They go to see Pharaoh, and this isn't like one of those deep points. This is one of those things I noticed. But Aaron had a staff with him now. It's like, I feel like Aaron was like, God, I carved this, and could you kind of do your thing and make mine do that too? I want, actually, God, I just want the snake trick. That's all I want. Just, if I put it down, I want it to turn into a snake. So, I don't know if you remember correctly, because I kind of had to be reminded of this, but when Moses and Aaron went to meet Pharaoh, they used Aaron's staff to do that snake trick. I feel like Aaron got jealous. Like, I want, God, I don't want a lot of things. You're telling me to be Moses' spokesman and do all this. I want a stick that turns into a snake. That's all I require, because that was pretty cool. Then Moses probably showed him, later on that day, dude, check this out. Take it by the tail. no, seriously, dude, not by the head, but take it by the tail. See what happens. Your brothers, he's like, no, maybe not. Take it by the tail. Yeah, God said so. Yeah, sure he did. So, Zach, you want to come on up and play? What I want to do, I hope you guys came here with a big expectancy this morning.
Amen.
If you didn't, I hope you gained one during this message. Well, what I want you guys to do is, if you have that, if this were a witness with you guys at all, you have that thing in your life that absolutely terrifies you, and you've been okay with not dealing with it, but it's always there. That snake's always there. Every time you think about it, that snake's always there, and it terrifies you. It's there. I know it's there, but I can't deal with it. God says, take it by the tail. No, I can't. The thing's going to whip around and bite me, and I'm going to say, I told you so, God. I'm believing this morning that you guys have that thing in your mind right now of I know what that snake is. I know what that thing is that's just terrifying me to no end. I want to deal with it, but I don't want to get hurt. And I feel like if I do it God's way, I'm going to get hurt. It's going to whip around and bite me. So what I want you guys to do, if I can get Andrew, just to move this over there or something. I'm going to require some participation on your part, because there's no better time than the present to deal with those things that you guys need to deal with. To grab those things by the tail. Do it God's way.
Do the way God's calling you to do. I don't care if it's the calling that God on your life that you're running from. You know, you're supposed to go to Bible school, or you're supposed to do this, or if it's, you know, you're dealing with you know, a bodily issue that I just don't. I don't want to go. I don't want to go back to the doctor for it. I don't want to. I'm going to ignore it. It's going to go away. It's not. It's always going to be that snake. It doesn't go away until you possess it. It doesn't turn back into that rod, that thing you're comfortable with, until you possess it. You reach down and you grab it. He's willing this morning to take your dead wood, take your trash that you have, and turn it around and turn it into something useful. Turn it into something that can make a difference. Addiction, pornography, whatever it is, he's able to turn this around. He's able to turn that thing that you're afraid of dealing with into something useful. Amen? So I'd like, if you guys, if that bears witness with you guys, and you need some prayer, I just challenge you, come on up here. Fill this row up and deal with that thing. We're up here, I'll be up here to pray for you, pray with you. I'll grab a couple other people if we need to. Don't hesitate, just whatever God's calling you to do. God's calling you to do it a certain way. Come on up here and deal with it. Don't let it be that snake anymore. Don't let it be that thing that terrifies you. If there's anybody in this place this morning, come on up here. Don't hesitate. Come on up. I just felt the Spirit of God on this message today. That there's just there's that something that you guys need to take possession of. You need to grab it. I got the ushers come over. So did everybody get what they came for this morning? If you didn't, I can stay after, that's fine. And so well, I've told you, I'm getting better at my transitions. In Jesus' name. But it's offering time. Amen. The ushers are there with envelopes. If you need an envelope, raise your hand. I'm just praying that you guys take what you heard today and that you won't forget it a few hours from now. Because I know how easy it is. You go to lunch and lunch resets your brain and you don't remember. But hopefully you took notes. And it ministered to me just as much as it ministered to you, hopefully. Brenda, if you come up here. Branda's one of our youth kids. She's actually enrolled in Bible school, and she's going to be leaving us sometime soon, which is, it might not be the plan of God. I mean, it might be missing, actually. It might be still. No. This girl's the epitome of, I could actually spend another hour over here talking about her, but she just follows after God. She's hungry for God. She is the epitome of taking things by the tail, and she, I've said this about her many times, she's heard me say this, but she's just unapologetically herself. She does things that she thinks is funny, that's fun, that just God called her to do something. She really doesn't care how she looks. She knows God called her to do it. It just doesn't matter to her. So she's got a little something for your little offering, pre-offering, and then you guys can come up and do your offering. And,
He talks about like taking the snake by the tail and stuff, and this was my snake. Whenever they were asking for somebody to volunteer to do this, I was like, well, that sounds terrifying. I guess I'm going to do it. So I wrote this last night because I knew that my words would not come out right. So, okay. So I yesterday was talking to one of my friends' moms, and she was doing this devotion. So I was like, well, read it to me. So one of the verses they had was 2 Corinthians 9:7. It says, each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God's love is cheerful, for God loves a cheerful giver. Amen. God calls us to give not only our money, but our time, our stuff, our love, and our effort to show others the love of Christ. We are called to give generously from our hearts. If you think back to the story of Cain and Abel, you'll read about how both brothers brought a gift to God. Cain brought God an offering of fruit of the ground, and Abel brought to God an offering of the firstborn of his flock. Now, if you read the full story, you see that God respected Abel's offering and didn't care much for Cain's. Cain was upset about that, as you all probably remember, and ended up killing his own brother over it. In this story, the reason that God did not respect Cain and his offering was because he did not give with the right attitude. What they gave didn't matter. It was what was in their hearts that mattered to God. We can tell just by reading the story that Cain's heart wasn't really in the right place. If it was, I don't think he would have killed his brother. So when giving today, all I ask of you is to give with the right attitude. Don't just give because it's a routine of yours to give every whatever Sunday of the month. Give because you know that all the stuff that was given to you was blessed to you. That it's not even yours anyway. We're all given all these blessings. It's all God's money anyway. When we die, it's not going to go with us. So I would like for you guys to give because it was given to you. Amen. So I'm going to pray over everything. Dear God, thank you for this day and everything you've done. Lord, I ask that you please be with each and every person in the room. I ask that you please soften their hearts and be able to give, allow them to give what you want them to give. Lord, I ask that you please be with them. Allow everyone to be able to see your plan and your purpose and be able to overcome anything that they are trying to work through in their life. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
already ran over a little bit. But I did want to talk just a second. You know, this was Youth Takeover Sunday. This was a trial. The reason we ran a little bit late, we don't know how to. We've never done this before. But wasn't it awesome seeing the supply that the youth group brought to this place? I felt like the Lord was saying this because it said a lot that we're losing the greatest generation this nation's ever known. Is that not true? Well, I felt like the Lord was saying the church is about to gain the greatest generation that I've ever raised up inside these millennials. Because there's no religion, there's no religious background, there's just an abandonment for the things of God when they grab hold of it. Watch what God is about to do inside the millennials in this nation. Amen. Greatest generation the church has ever seen. That's right. That's something. Amen? Amen. Glory to God. Camp. We've got 2 kids that still don't have a sponsor for camp. So if the Lord moves it on your heart, you can give it next week, next Sunday, or you can come up and just throw it on the stage before you leave. We've said that finances are not going to hinder us from sending any kids to camp here. We're just not going to do it. If I got to sell part of my precious gun collection, I don't think we're sending the kids to camp. However that works, right? The youth are the priority, amen? The future of the church, the soon future of the church. Part of the church right now bringing their supply, amen? Tomorrow night, Celebrate Recovery. It is a Christ-centered 12-step program to help people recover from whatever they need recovery from. 6:30, Midwest Healing Center just down the road here. If you know somebody that needs that, encourage Jennifer, you stand up, see them right after church. They'll give you details on it. Hook up, that's an awesome supply.
Yes, I also got an announcement. Somebody in this room has an anniversary today. We're inviting everybody into the other room. We've got, I think, cupcakes, ice cream, delicious stuff. So go ahead and go in there, and we've got enough for everybody. So go with the little guy. We'll see you here next week.